remember, I think it was somewhere in the early, actually you'll probably be able to tell the day, it was somewhere in the early 90s, and it was called Mansion of the Misforgotten, written by Bob Haney, drawn by Jim Farrow.
That was the, I think 92, where it's the House of Mystery is the...
No, it's the Phantom Stranger team up. It's Batman
7, I think, maybe, I'm not sure.
So it was, I picked it up because it was Batman, because the cover was really cool. And it was a Batman Phantom Stranger team up, and I had no idea who the Phantom Stranger was. But I loved the comic, and it was basically a Batman horror comic. It was, in fact, what it actually was a rip-off of The Omen, or possibly Rosemary's Baby. It was one of those kind of things where Bob Haney looked around in popular culture and did one of them quickly. And I loved it. And suddenly, I looked further, and now there was this Phantom Stranger thing, and I got that. And then I was in a shop, and there was the first issue of Swamp Thing, the Bernie Wrightson, Len Wein Swamp Thing.
And I believe Len was writing Phantom Stranger at that point.
Len was writing Phantom Stranger as well, with Marv on number, collaborated with Marv on 18, but the other ones were all Len. And suddenly, I was doing something very interesting, which is I was following a writer in comics. I was following what Len Wein did. I started reading Justice League because he was writing that. And I was following the art. I'd gone from seeing Bernie Wrightson stuff in things like Tales of the Unexpected or House of Mystery, and going, I don't like it. Why does he draw people's mouths wide open with weird strands? That's odd. And he always draws them with lights just above there, so he can draw big triangular shadows under their noses to go, actually, this is really cool. That's what he's doing. And suddenly, somewhere in there, I was a comics fan. I'd gone from being somebody who read comics and liked comics to somebody who had reached some kind of weird tipping point. And now I could identify artists just by looking at things. And I was interested in the writers. And you know, the point, I guess, that I really had the power to act upon this was after my 13th birthday. Up until that point, I was coping with my comics craving as best I could. But there
Now, oddly enough, I was talking to someone the other day who was here at their first WorldCon because they read in your blog about it and decided to come. And she told me that it sounds like nerds like herself talking about nerdy things, passionate people, connection to different things. And if I appreciate his work, and he's going, other people who appreciate it should be cool. So you're basically sort of full circle here of the reaction you had going to your first convention. Now you're inspiring other people to come to conventions.
Good. I'm really pleased. I love the idea. It's very weird because you go to conventions and people talk about the graying of fandom. But I remember when I went to my first convention 20-something years ago, 25 years ago, they were talking about the graying of fandom. And I realized actually what they mean is, my friends are all getting older. And there's a level on which next generation, who is always there at the convention, are suddenly, oh, I don't notice them because they're not my friends, they're not the people I'm looking for.
And you do have that problem now, because you have such a reputation, so many people, hi guys, want to see you and listen to you. You have problems meeting new people, I'm assuming, at this point.
Well, it depends on context. I think the first convention I went to where I realized something was wonky was probably BosCon 2002.
Actually, I think I made it the year before at San Diego. I'll say this.
Well, no, I was going to say San Diego never counts.
This is around 2001. I remember this. You were a featured guest, and you had just finished your first panel, and somehow I ended up talking with you and Scott McCloud behind this barrier of San Diego Con security. People on the other side going, Neil, sign! Have my baby! Sign my baby! He turned Scott to me and said, with total sincerity, when I agreed to do this a few years ago, I figured Sandman would have been over for a few years, everyone would have forgotten about me, and I could spend the convention chatting with my friends, and that's not going to happen, is it?
No, that's completely true, but that was very much a San Diego specific thing, and now it's something that I've completely given up on. But that was actually my plan. I'd agreed to do the 1999 I think it was World Fantasy Con, San Diego Comic Con, because I knew Sandman was going to finish in 1996. So I thought, give them 3 years, they'll have forgotten about me. I will have freedom of movement. Yes, people will still like me, but I'll be like someone like Barry Smith or Neil Adams walking the halls. People go, oh, no, that's fine. But you have freedom of movement, and I don't have freedom of movement to the point where I was advised that I couldn't actually go on the main halls at Comic-Con this year because it would have been a security and traffic risk.
Apparently wearing a rabbit suit works.
So, that's what I decided. The trouble with the mask, I mean, Adam Savage did this thing where he just got a Joker mask, which I thought was brilliant. But the problem is that only works if you actually want to walk around Comic-Con seeing what there is. And I don't want to walk around seeing what there is. I know what there is. They're giant booths and they're loud. What I want to do is wander around and see my friends. So the moment that I sidle over to somebody and say, no, it's all right. It's not actually just somebody wearing a Joker mask. It's me, Neil. At that moment, the entire thing stops working. Because 10 minutes later, you know, the 80,000 people on that hall all know by Jungle Telegraph. Yeah, Neil's wandering around. He's wearing a Joker mask. But no, what I was going to say is 2002 BosCon was the first time, because up until that point, if I went to, I used to try and go to a big convention a year and a small convention a year, and that was so that I could meet new people. I would meet more people at the small convention than I ever would at the big convention, because by the end of the small convention, you've met everybody. BosCon 2002, I was guest of honor, and they told me that membership had gone up by, God, I don't remember the figure.
Okay, who's from NESFA in the room?
Anyone from NESFA actually remember the numbers?
Jim?
20%.
It had gone up by 20%, which for a large, it was just big enough that BosCon was creaking at the edges with more people than it could actually comfortably deal with. And none of the things that I was meant to do quite worked, because I'd been scheduled the same way I would have been scheduled at any convention. You know, you do this signing and then you go to this panel, which is fine, except that I've already signed for 200 people, and there's another 200 people in line, and now I'm meant to be on a panel, so now I have to say sorry to the 200 people, and I run to the panel, and I do the panel, and then I go back and try and carry on with the signing, which isn't really meant to be the signing, because I'm meant to be doing something, but there's still 200 people, and they haven't gone anywhere. And
or I'm going back, there's one of you, there's 800 of them.
So
it's unfortunate, but it's the ratio.
And so that was what was happening at working. And the thing that I love about conventions probably wasn't as much there for me as I would like. You know, there's that weird point where you suddenly look around and you realize you're kind of a bowling ball on a rubber sheet. Simply by being there, you're changing the shape of the thing that's
the theory
there.
of gravity and attraction.
Yeah. So I would, I still love conventions, and it's harder to go to them and feel like I'm actually at a con and just be in a situation where I can be in a bar and talk to people. You know, I have enormously fond memories of, it works as long as I'm at a convention that's actually small enough. The last convention I had was Fiddler's Green's again, was the New Zealand National Convention and the Australian National Convention. One in Wellington, one in Hobart, Tasmania. And both decided to go to conventions. So I was like, well, anyway, hardly any Australians have made the enormous trek across the straits to and so I got to lots and lots of people. Everybody who was there I got to know. I got to learn all sorts of amazingly cool things about animals, the Stylocaliocephalus, and the kind of stuff that you actually only learn from fantasy fans. All of them have another area of expertise. It could be comic books, or it could be, I think it can be extinct, you know, one moment once on a pub, and somebody about to put up his hand, and I said, yeah, what is it? And he said, well, I'm a brain surgeon, and it really isn't brain surgery either.